Hello, the Canada Files viewers. This is Aidan Jonah, editor-in-chief of the Canada Files. I am here speaking today with Yves Engler, a candidate for the NDP federal leadership race and a 13-time author. Yves, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. Now, the big news is that on Monday, your campaign actually submitted the documents to formally be vetted for the NDP leadership race. Now, a central theme of the campaign has been a concern and a delay to combat the fear of a biased vetting process. So, can you talk about what prompted you to finally go ahead and submit for the vetting?
Yeah, well, first of all, we released our platform about a month ago. We've been able to release different videos about the platform. We've been able to do about 20 or so events. We have been able also to put a spotlight on the vetting. We've done some webinars, we've done an alternative vetting forum, we've written some articles. And so we basically also we want to be part of this November 27th debate in Montreal. And to do so, you have to pay a big chunk of the money, the big chunk of the 100,000 that you need to pay the party by tomorrow, in fact. And so put all together, also with the fact that I was able to travel in person to the NDP office on Monday in Ottawa. Put it all together, we thought that the November 10th was the right moment. We could have waited another 6 or 7 weeks, but we want to be part of this debate. And we believe that we've kind of put the NDP in a position where, at minimum, if they were to subvert democracy, at minimum they're not able to do it quietly.
Right. So I want to talk about the campaign and its ability to reach people. So my impression is that you've been traveling in within Canada to reach new audiences, reach supporters, and try to continue building the base. So can you talk about where you've visited in the last, week or so or three, really before this vetting was submitted?
Yeah, I'm coming to you from Sarnia. So just did an event last night here. Later today, I'm going to do an event in a second event in London. We did an event about 2 months ago here. I was just in the Maritimes. Did events in Halifax, Truro, Charlottetown, Fredericton, St. John, and Moncton. And have a couple more events coming up in Guelph and a few events actually in Toronto. So we've done, like I said, about 20, maybe more than 20 public events over the past 2 and a bit months, and so we've been able to reach quite a few people in person. Obviously, the events, as a general rule, the events are pretty good. They've been fairly well attended, and there's quite good extensive discussion. So yeah, we've been able to reach large numbers of people. We also were able to have a bit of a corporate media breakthrough with the vetting submission. The Canadian Press story was picked up very widely, and the Globe and Mail did I would say actually a surprisingly sympathetic story, because I know the Globe and Mail has a hit piece planned targeting the campaign, but they did quite a all things considered sympathetic story that talked about how the vetting, quoted me saying the vetting is undemocratic, and also quoted me saying that NDP members should be allowed to vote if they want on support or oppose a candidate who's criticizing Mark Carney for bringing in a budget with tens of billions of dollars more for the military designed to assist the U.S. war machine. So we have been able to reach, I think, a fairly broad audience if we are formally allowed to participate in the race at this November 27th debate. which will be in large part in French. I have absolutely no doubt that our message will resonate and it will get to a wider audience. And I believe that more generally, if we're part of this race, there will be a pushback from the corporate media, from the dominant medium. But within that, there will be lots of opportunities to put forward messages that are being basically excluded, which is one, that Mark Carney's radical militarist turn is a threat to the world and a threat to Canadians. And two, that Canadian foreign policy has been fundamentally designed to advance Washington's U.S. imperial interests and the interests of Canadian corporations. So I think that there's some messages that we're able to put out if we're allowed to formally participate in this race. We're able to get onto a much broader platform than has traditionally been open to sort of anti-imperialist ideas. Not to mention the domestic policies that we're pushing, which I think are a little bit more acceptable in the dominant discussion, but are nonetheless important, like abolishing tuition, like turning the real estate investment trusts into co-ops, like shutting down the tar sands.
Now, when you talk about Mark Carney's radical militarist turn, I think the budget that is currently under consideration is a prime example of that. Now, can you talk about your thoughts on how the NDP should handle that budget, and what options are available to Canadians if this budget does pass by some manner to oppose this violent militarist acceleration from Canada?
Yeah, the NDP should have come out before the budget was dropped and said that they weren't going to support a budget that included huge increases of spending to the war machine while cutting climate mitigation efforts to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and cutting 40,000 or so jobs in the public service. The NDP should have come out very clearly about this beforehand. It was absolutely clear that Mark Carney was going to put even more public resources into the war machine. And that budget, from a militarist standpoint, it doesn't disappoint. It talks about defense 148 times. It talks about climate change 20 times. The notion that Russia, China, Iran are a bigger threat to most Canadians than the climate disturbances, like the forest fires in the summer that drove hundreds of thousands of people from their homes, is absolutely nonsensical. The Canadian military is not designed to defend Canada from the only country that could invade, which is the U.S. It is designed to assist the Pentagon in its global power projection, like we're seeing right now with the U.S. blowing up 20 or so ships in the Caribbean, which even the British and the French have condemned. And the British are saying that they won't offer any more intelligence support to the U.S. for these operations. Almost certainly Canada is providing intelligence support for the U.S. Criminality in the Caribbean, and yet you don't have a single other candidate in the NDP leadership race that has said anything about Donald Trump's blowing up and Canada's complicity with blowing up ships in the Caribbean. You don't have anything from the Canadian government. You don't have anything from Don Davies, the NDP interim leader. So the Canadian military is structured to assist the U.S. in all its violence internationally. And the notion that we're going to put more and more resources into this institution is absolutely wrong-headed, and it's particularly wrong-headed when it leads to all kinds of cutbacks domestically. So the NDP should be absolutely clear that it opposes this budget. It opposes it on militarist terms principally, because that is the most egregious part of it. The budget says is we're going to hit 5%. We're going to hit 5% of GDP on military spending. These are absolutely astronomical sums. What we've seen, as the Globe and Mail reported on Saturday, the thing that's blocking more military spending is the fact that the military itself cannot handle the influx of resources. There's just simply too much money being put into an institution. It can't spend the money fast enough. This is how extreme Mark Carney's militarist turn is, and there's basically silence from the NDP MPs, and bare whispers about it at the margins in the leadership campaign.
I know you're busy, so I'll just ask one last question. Now, we've seen this sudden ambition from the Canadian forces to have reserves grow up to 400,000 over the years. And if I remember correctly, the reserves are currently not even above 50,000. So, you had said in the post that you would oppose any push towards conscription. So, do you think there's a legitimate chance that could happen? Because there's a kind of a comedy event happened recently where the Ottawa Citizen had a story saying that the civil servants in Ottawa, I think it was like three, I can't remember how many number of them, but it was somewhere in the thousands.
300,000.
300. Oh, yes, I was going to say that, but I thought it was so ridiculous that I must have been wrong. But okay, thank you, Yves. So, this conscription push, do you think this is, something that could actually happen in reality? Do you think it's a risk?
I don't think it's a realistic political development in the short, medium term. But I do think what's happening, the extremeness of Mark Carney's militarism, is emboldening the forces within the military and the Department of National Defense that want to see massive increases across the board. And the number that you referred to is actually 29,000 right now. The reserves are about 29,000, and they want to increase that 1,300%, 13 times to 400,000. And there's talk about, I wasn't able to read the Ottawa Citizen article, but I saw the headline of 300,000 civil service members becoming, potentially becoming part of the reserves. This is just speaks. I mean, we're seeing it all across. If you read the business pages, there's an endless stream of stories about different crown corporations, like BDC, Business Development Canada. I just saw a story yesterday, or the day before, about how they've taken on this important military contractor dimension. They have historically, I guess, not been part of sort of funding arms manufacturers. The Canadian Commercial Corporation, a whole series of crown corporations in provincially, in Quebec, Investment Quebec, they're all taking on arms industry focused dimension. This has really started playing out aggressively in the past, sort of 6 months, and there's been just a stream of stories, and it's in the budget itself. It focuses on the military and arms production as a economic innovator and stimulus, but it doesn't focus on the green economy. It doesn't focus on the care economy as being economic stimulus and part of some sort of national economic strategy in response to Donald Trump. So this is these are choices. We're seeing it all over, this hardline militarism, and you have to ask yourself, why? I mean, why? Like, again, I repeat that we have 60,000 people a year living in abject misery on the streets. About 250,000 at some point are homeless across the country. We have hundreds of thousands who were displaced from their homes because of forest fires in the summer. There are real threats to Canadian security. I mean, living on the street is a threat to your security. Being driven from your home from a forest fire is a threat to your security. But what we're doing is we're devoting a huge sum of resources, a huge sum of intellect, a huge sum of political energy to basically creating and targeting foreign actors that are not a threat, and so this is this has to be directly challenged, and certainly the notion of a draft, the notion of conscription. There is a history here. Let's not forget there was conscription during World War One. For that, even though there's a promise not to do that, and to that brutal imperialist war that led to tens and tens of thousands of Canadians and millions of others being killed for no reason except for imperialist logic. During World War II, right? So there's a history that we should not ignore. I don't think it's realistic in the short or medium term, but I think that if these militarist forces are given further power and further resources, that direction is certainly a possibility.
Well, Yves, let's certainly hope that you will be on the debate stage near the end of the month, around the NDP leadership race, to actually raise the concerns about the militarism that is just escalating to a fanatical degree in these recent times. So, that, folks, was Yves Engler joining us for today's interview. Yves, really, thanks for coming on and speaking to the CanFellows.
Thanks a lot for having me.
Would you have any links or places you'd suggest people go to check out information about your campaign?
Eve for ndpleader.ca is the website, and the campaign has accounts on all the different social media platforms, as well as I'm on most of the social media platforms.
Okay, well then, thank you very much. And to the audience, thank you very much for making it to the end of this interview. If you enjoy the journalism the CanFellows produces, please do go ahead and consider setting up a monthly or annual or one-time donation to support the journalism. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks once more, Yves.
Thanks.